There's a light in the sky, rising in the air. There's a feeling so strong. It's time to light the fire, like a bright shining light. Learn, getting more out of life. Love, sharing time with friends, feeling so strong.
Yes, hello and welcome. Great to be with you on the House of Wellness. My name's Luke Darcy and our full team is here. Joe Stanley, Rachael Finch and Luke Hines. Hello, team.
Mate.
Hi.
Hi.
So nice to be here.
Great stuff. And Joe, I know you're very excited because you are hanging out to get your hands on a couple of our very special guests later on.
That's right. It's the four-legged variety of guests. So, they're so cuddly. I can't wait.
Bring it on. Correct. They are very cute. We're looking forward to that, which brings me to you, Hinesy. We're going to find out...
Very cute, did you just say?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Hey,
slow down. It's normally Gerald that flirts with me.
Hey, we're going to find out what makes you tick shortly. We're getting our hands on your DNA, literally.
Yeah, we're actually all going to be surprised on this one because I actually don't know the results myself. Not only do our genes determine who we are, but they also relay what diet and exercise best suited to our individual genetic makeup. And I'm going to share my results with you all a little bit later.
Can't wait.
OK, great stuff. But first, here's a subject that's way too close to be a very sensitive part of our anatomy, Hinesy. I know this is one that men find a little bit difficult to talk about at times.
That's exactly right, Darcy. Each year, around 30,000 Australian men get a vasectomy. But you'll back me here on this, Darcy. It's something that's a little bit of a taboo topic, all right?
Makes me fairly nervous, Joe, I'll be honest with you.
I've sat around at barbecues and heard guys talk about it.
Well, I think we're getting more open, but it's taken a bit of time.
Look, most men don't talk about it, and it's one of those subjects that stays behind closed doors, except we found a couple of guys who got the snip and talk very openly about it, as well as the doctor who's taking his vasectomy message and service quite literally to the streets.
When people come in to have a vasectomy, we ask them where they heard us from, and quite a lot of them will say, "Oh, I saw your car, Doc, driving around."
Dr. Snip, aka Dr. Nicholas Demiduke, is taking his business to the streets.
I get all sorts of reactions. Some people pull over and wind down the window and share their experience of their vasectomy with me. Some people just give me the thumbs up.
Dr. Snip reckons it's the most effective form of advertising for a procedure that's still cloaked in mystery.
Men need a bit of help and a bit of prompting. We did try advertising on sports radio initially, but if you get the message out a bit wider and women are involved, that tends to spur men into action.
It took journalist Stephen Corby 3 years to build up enough courage to go the snip.
I just have this strange, completely explicable fear of sharp things near my scrotum. I just don't like. I don't like the idea, and I think a lot of men. I was talking to my surgeon about this. A lot of men do this involuntary kind of ooh when you even talk about it. If you talk to a guy about a vasectomy, there's that kind of face they make in an involuntary, like they've been punched in the stomach or kicked in the balls. It's there's kind of a fear of the pain, a fear of so much, the recovery, all these things played on my mind for literally for years.
With 2 kids and a partner who was no longer on the pill, Stephen eventually took control of his fear and had a vasectomy.
I've run with the bulls for a story. I've jumped out of a plane for a story. Surely a vasectomy can't be that hard. So it was the curiosity factor then gets me across the line.
Stephen reckons most men are terrified of the V word, so he's now, by default, become the guy who tells it the way it is.
And I asked lots of men about this. I said, how bad is it? And I have a big bikey friend who said he didn't feel anything, didn't notice it, went out for a run the next day. He doesn't feel pain. He can rip his arm off and not notice it. I had other friends who would say, oh, it's fine. It's just one day with frozen peas and that sort of thing. But the story seems to vary a lot. And so the recovery is what worried me.
After watching his wife struggle through 2 difficult births, Mikey Carl had no hesitation in getting the snip.
It struck me as the best way to just put an end to any kind of risk of having another child. I just thought, let's just end this now. Forget about condoms, forget about wearing the coil, all that kind of stuff, because, you know, it's really harsh on women to go through everything for as long as they go through. And the bitches be crazy, you know?
Mikey's also a journalist, so a first-hand vasectomy experience was bound to be a good story. But like all good stories, it had a twist.
I use so many puns, you know, arrive early, feeling cocky, just pun after pun after pun. But also, it just really took people into the room of what the experience was like. And I had this guy who, while he was doing it, saying to me, Michael, you're experiencing nothing. This is not pain. Like, quite sadistically, like, it was awful. And he had no compassion at all. So I told a lot of people, and then I got home and drank a lot of scotch. Yeah.
Mikey puts his bad experience down to operator error.
I'm a pretty optimistic, happy person, but that's really sort of took the wind out of my sails. And that's why I definitely suggest men, make sure you're going to go to somebody who's been recommended.
The experience has left no scars, but his story has helped plenty of guys sort the fact from the fiction.
I still get people, my friends, who said, I read your vasectomy story the other day, and it's good to be able to write, something that's that honest, that it elicits that kind of reaction.
Now it's just about convincing all the other guys that getting the snip is not the end of their virility.
A lot of my friends who are younger and have not had children, they think it's particularly hilarious. They refer to you being neutered, that you're no longer a man, that you're, that you talk with a funny voice, so you squeak when you walk.
Well, a lot of men are very afraid of letting a stranger go down, and check out their junk, let alone, to kind of take a knife to it.
The stigma is all about the fear, I think. There's two sides of the fear, the physical fear and the fear that your mate's going to give you a hard time. And my surgeon said there's a lot of guys come in and even as they're lying on the table, they're getting text messages from their mates in the building site going, they're going to cut your balls off.
Thankfully, or consequentially, a few mates have got on board and got it done, which is cool. And they haven't gone to the guy I went to. I do hear very good things about Dr. Snip. He does a fantastic job, and you get a Dr. Snip stubby holder. True story.
I had my doubts until I heard you get a Dr. Snip stubby holder, and now, wow, how about that? Dr. Snip joins us on the House of Wellness. A lot of fear around this. Can you relate to all that, given that's what you do every day?
I sure can. I've got the same fear sitting here on the couch.
We're very gentle. It's all right.
Now, so after the pill and condoms, I read vasectomy is the third choice for contraceptives amongst Australian men. Why is it that us as men, and I can admit to this, I've got a great fear around the idea of going to visit you. Why is that the case?
It's just not a thing that you do every day of the week, and it's obviously a first-time event. And like with any first-time event, bungee jumping, whatever it's going to be, having a vasectomy and somebody playing with your junk, like they said before, it's pretty scary.
But why do you think there's such a stigma? I mean, we're taking responsibility for family planning. Isn't that a fantastic thing to do?
That is fantastic, and that's what a lot of men come along to really celebrate. They're taking responsibility, and they've seen their partner go through a childbirth or two, and so don't want them to have that experience again. And we've decided we've had enough kids. So
wow.
Yeah.
But I think it surely is beneficial to speak openly about the process and how really it's a very simple thing to do in comparison to, say, getting your tubes tied if you're a woman, because hopefully that would allay some fears for men, because by comparison, women go through a lot more.
Sure.
Can I just emphasise that?
Sounds like a real passion topic of yours.
Yeah. I've got a lot of time to share that with you. But anyway, don't you think we need to speak more openly about the process?
Oh, look, definitely. Look, this is a 6 to 10 minute operation done in the local anaesthetic, walk in, walk out. Its failure rate's about 1 in 5,000 compared to 1 in 250 for women having a tubal ligation, so it's 20 times safer. It's just way easier all around. But I do joke to my patients, if they've got their partner in, this is worse than having twins.
No, that's helpful.
Hey, Dr. Snip, the local anaesthetic, that's a bit hardcore. I mean, if I'm in, knock me out. I don't want to be awake to have you doing what you do down there, mate. But how many people opt into the local anaesthetic option?
All of my patients. I don't.
You don't put anyone under general anaesthetic?
I don't give general to any patient.
What about the recovery? I mean, is it long? Is it painful? If you're not giving anything during the process, what about afterwards?
No, they're having local anaesthetic.
Okay.
And we use a long-acting anaesthetic, so that lasts 4 to 6 hours afterwards, and that stops your brain developing a pain cycle. So, like you heard, some people go out and play touch rugby the next day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not recommended, but and some people have a miserable time, but most people have a pretty good time afterwards.
I do have a serious question, because I've got a lot of friends who are at that time in their lives where they're repartnering and looking at having their second lot of kids. Is it reversible?
You can't guarantee reversible, so you've got to be sure that you've finished your family. It's just too much risk to take if it's not 100% successful. It might be 90% successful reversal operations, but that's not what you should be doing.
Does your passport say Dr. Snip?
No.
Okay, just checking.
And the reversible operation, I understand, involves a massive big needle in the ball. So if you were thinking about getting it reversed, maybe think the first time around. Thank you to Dr. Snip for clearing up a few of the questions that we have. Appreciate you coming in to the House of Wellness. From taking steps to family planning to bringing home a brand new, very furry bundle of joy. I know, Joe, you're excited about this. We meet the dogs making extraordinary changes to people's lives. That's coming up after the break. Welcome back to the House of Wellness. They're known as man's best friend, Joe, and for 450,000 Australians who have low vision or are blind, they're even more than that.
Oh, guide dogs are absolute superstars. I mean, how smart are they? I know this because I have a 13-week-old Labrador puppy, Daisy, who her favourite thing is to bark at her own reflection. So the smarts haven't yet quite kicked in for her yet.
So cute.
But guide dogs are obviously very clever and vital in the lives of many Australians.
Good boy, straight on. That's it. Good boy.
Rocky is a 3-year-old Labrador,
That's it. Good boy.
taking to the streets as part of his work with his owner, Steph.
You've got it.
When I first got him, he was a very quiet soul. He didn't like affection or anything like that, but since I've had him, he's become more cheeky.
Distractions such as smells and noise are a normal part of life for dogs. But for a guide dog, they can be the difference between life and death.
Okay, ready? Let's go. Forward. You need to go a bit faster. Straight across.
A lot of people actually come and ask me how long I've been training that guide dog for. And I say to them, well, I'm actually not training him. He's my guide dog. I'm blind.
32-year-old Steph was only 19 when she was diagnosed with cone rod dystrophy, a condition that 10 years later led her to become legally blind and in turn started her special partnership with Rocky.
So before I had Rocky, I suppose I felt like I was sort of becoming a bit of a recluse. So I didn't really get out and about on my own. I'd wait until my husband got home from work if I needed to go somewhere or went with a friend.
That's it. Find the lift, Rocky. Find the lift.
Day to day, he helps me with obviously getting around. So if I need to go to an appointment in the city, he will take me. If I've run out of milk, he can take me down to the corner shop, and I work on the ground floor of the building as a massage therapist, so he'll take me down to my workspace or into the gym. It's just about that absolute independence that I know that if I need to go somewhere, that he will take me there safely.
Find the stairs. Good boy. Steady down the stairs. That's it. Steady. Good boy. Steady.
There is a lot of trust involved between myself and Rocky, so I don't just go out the front door and tell Rocky, okay, let's go to the city, and he takes me to the city. I need to know where I'm going to give him the directions where to go.
Okay, and we're going to go left.
He also needs to keep me safe and keep me free from running into obstacles or stopping at road crossings and that sort of thing.
Find the pole. Good boy.
The more trust and the longer we've been together, the easier it is for me to read his cues.
Good boy. Straight across.
However, sometimes the circumstances can be out of both Steph and Rocky's control.
So I have found it a bit challenging lately around the area that I live in. There's been a lot of works with the new train tunnels, so things are constantly changing. And for instance, I went to go and catch a tram with Rocky, and I was trying to find the pole to press the button to cross the road, and I couldn't find it, and I was really confused. And somebody came up to me and said, oh, are you trying to cross that road? Because that's not a crossing anymore, it's gone. They're building a new tram stop, so that just shows that 50-50. You know, Rocky didn't know that that tram stop wasn't across the road anymore. So they do a really good job at posting things in the mail to tell you all about the works that are going on, but unfortunately that's not accessible for visually impaired or blind people. So it's about making sure that all that information is accessible to everyone, I think.
For Rocky, it's not all work though.
Kisses for Mummy.
Oh, thank you. You know, at home, he's not in harness, so he is like any other pet dog. He runs around, he's got his toys, he's got his blanket, he's got all of his favourite things. He loves to chase things. He's always with me. He never leaves my side. Everybody needs to look after their mental health, and I suppose being blind, sometimes you have more bad days than some other people. So he really knows when I'm sad, and he just comes up and gives me a cuddle or anything like that. And it's just having that companionship and knowing that there's that unconditional love between us that's just really amazing.
My makeup off.
I just can't imagine life without him.
Oh, what a great story that is, Jo, Steph and Rocky. How beautiful is that bond?
Oh, unbelievable. And we all know as pet owners how important our pets are to us. But for Steph, to see that he removes that isolation that she would have without him, it's just so amazing. I loved it.
Beautiful.
So beautiful.
Yeah, what a legend Rocky is. And there's plenty more following in his shadow. And in a moment, we're going to meet a couple of them, which is very exciting. The most beautiful guide dogs you're ever going to meet. Coming up right after the break.
Let's start our day right with a breakfast smoothie that's full of fresh fruit and fabulous flavours. I've also included some protein-packed chia seeds and a little something special. Chop up half a cup of strawberries, half a cup of banana, and half a cup of pineapple, and pop it in your blender. Then add a few sprigs of mint and a spoonful of chia seeds to keep you feeling fuller longer. Gland Inner Glow powder is our special ingredient and a secret weapon. It helps heal, hydrate and protect your skin. Pour in 2 cups of coconut milk or the milk of your choice and we're good to go. And there you have it, my simple yet stunning, fresh and fruity breakfast smoothie. A healthy way to start your day in less than 5 minutes.
Oh, welcome back. Before the break, we saw 3-year-old guide dog Rocky doing his best work with Steph. But to get Rocky to that stage takes an enormous amount of work and training. And leading the training is CEO of Guide Dogs Victoria, Karen Hayes. Karen,
hi Luke.
Great to see you. No one's actually said hello to you yet because these two ones are dominating. This is Taj and Aztec. How much work goes into getting one of these little fellas to the stage where we saw with Rocky?
Well, it's an enormous amount of work. When the puppies are 8 weeks old, so these guys are about 10 weeks old, and when they're 8 weeks old, they go out to their puppy raising family for about a year, and they work with our trainers during the course of that year to get their basic training, and then they come back to guide dogs and really undertake their very intensive training to become a beautiful guide dog. And that intensive training usually lasts for about 20 weeks. And then they're matched with somebody who's blind or has low vision, and there's another month of intensive training for them to learn how to work with their beautiful new dog.
Now, Aztec wants to go.
I do understand that the guide dog movement started in the 50s, but it was with a Kelpie. But I've always had labs, and they're very easily trained. Is that why you swapped over to that breed? Or
there's a couple of reasons, Jo. One is everybody loves a Labrador, so they're very, very acceptable in the community in terms of people approaching them and being sort of socially acceptable within the community. So they also, a guide dog will do about 9,000 kilometres in its working life. Wow. So you need a dog that has a really strong and robust skeletal structure to be able to cope with the workload. So once again, a Labrador has that robust nature to their skeletal structure, but they're also very easy to train. They're beautiful dogs and they love to work. I mean, guide dogs, Labradors absolutely love to work.
So who's eligible and how do you match a poochie with their new owner?
Well, look, it's a very complex process. So if you've got a really active dog that wants to walk a lot and run a lot and very, very active, there's no point in matching them with somebody who has a very sedentary lifestyle and is going to be at home a lot of the time. Whereas if you've got somebody who's working working, catching public transport to work every day, very busy life. You want a dog that's going to be able to keep up with that. But also, if you've got somebody who's really tall like you, we better make sure that it's not a small dog that's going to get matched with them. Okay. So it's quite a complex process. You also look at their personalities, the personality of the new guide dog handler and the dog, and look at how that's going to match as well. So,
and I would imagine that training process is quite complex as well. As we saw with Steph there, he needs to know her route, where she's going and where, you know, what bus she's taking.
Absolutely, Rachel. And the thing about a guide dog is that you look at Steph and, you know, Rocky has given her a sense of independence, a sense of safety and confidence that she wouldn't have without him. And she talked about feeling isolated before she got Rocky. And so therefore it's really important that the general community understand that, you know, these are not pets when they're working. They're working dogs that are really critical to the independence and safety of somebody who's blind or has low vision.
And Karen, you talk about the general community there. I understand there's a campaign going on at the moment called Access All Areas. Can you tell us about that?
Well, guide dogs by law have access all areas, so to restaurants, to taxis, to cinemas, to public venues. The only place that a guide dog can't go is the operating theatre of a hospital and some parts of the zoo. So by law, they have access all areas. Now, that said, there is still a great deal of people in the community who don't understand some of those rules and regulations. So we have a really important role at Guide Dogs Australia to teach the community about the fact that guide dogs are able to get access to all areas of the community. That said, we keep a very close eye on how that's going and how the education programs are going with the community. And over the last 2 years, for example, we found that 1 in 2 people have been refused access because of their guide dog. Now, of those people, 71% of those people have been refused access to a restaurant, and 58% have been refused access to some sort of taxi or share riding. And so if you imagine being blind and turning up at a restaurant to enjoy a beautiful night and you're refused access, not only is it incredibly humiliating, you have no idea who's sitting around you and who's watching it. And, you know, it's very confusing, but it also, you know, when we talked about the amount of training that goes into not only training the dog but training the person to be with the dog. So all of that training is compromised because the person feels a level of, you know, bolt to their confidence and that sort of thing. So they don't feel comfortable then for a little while about going out in the community and doing the things that they would normally do. And they'll avoid going to different places that they would normally go because of that.
So how are we getting the word out then that we should providing access all areas?
Absolutely. And it's great for you guys to be doing this for us as well. So we really appreciate it. It's International Guide Dogs Week this week. So we're out there really pushing the message about guide dogs and guide dogs in training by law have access all areas.
Karen, it's an amazing job that you and your team do. It must be really rewarding getting to work every day and doing what you do. And I understand you rely on the community to get behind fundraising, so you can donate money now. Head to our website, houseofwellness.com. We'll put all the details there to support Karen and her team. Thank you for coming in, Karen. It's great. Up next, we get a glimpse of Hinesy's genetic makeup, mate. Find out the result.
Pressure is on. I don't even know.
DNA test. We're here to support you, mate. Don't worry about it. That's coming up next on the House of Wellness. Welcome back. Most of us know that DNA, Joe, is our unique genetic code, passed on from our parents. It's what makes us unique and determines whether our eyes are blue or brown, how tall we are, the size of our nose potentially as well. Joe, that wasn't a shot at anyone. That was just the way it works.
I love genes, and I love that it's a connection to family, and that you look at family photos and can go, oh, that's the reason I look like this. It's your fault.
Well, guys, as I found out, our DNA also reveals whether we're built for speed or endurance, or if a low-fat or low-carb approach works best for you. But up until now, this has been left largely to trial and error for me. But a new DNA test is giving us the edge when it comes to tackling an approach to health and fitness, and I put my hand up to be the guinea pig.
Alex, can you explain what is My DNA and how does it work?
So My DNA is a genetic test kit that can measure your DNA against a whole heap of markers to tell you more about your nutrition and your fitness.
The science behind my DNA is called nutrigenomics, which studies how our genes can influence the way we respond to diet and exercise.
They'll test your genes, and from that you'll find out things about your diet, the best diet that is suited to you, and from that, you can draw a whole lot of conclusions that can help you. And then when it comes to fitness, it can tell you whether you're better suited to power or endurance types of exercise. It can tell you how often you should work out, and it can even tell you your injury risk.
When I was a kid, I always struggled with my weight, and I've always wondered if my genes were to blame.
Can some people be more disposed to a gaining weight gene or holding on to body fat gene than others?
It's called the FTO gene, and everyone has this gene, but it's the variation of this gene that you have that can tell you more about your tendency to gain weight easier than others. So in terms of nutrition, it can tell you about how well you store fats. It can also tell you about your tendency to overeat or, snack more. My DNA does actually also come with an 8-week meal and fitness plan that is tailored around your genetic results. So it's not a one-fits-all approach.
So with that in mind, I'm going to give it a go. And it's too easy. With a simple cheek swab that collects cells for DNA analysis.
And the other side.
In the back?
That's
It'll take just 3 weeks to process the results, and I can't wait to finally get some answers.
Leave it to the experts, shall we?
Yeah, that's it.
Well, Hines, you still don't know your results, and you very bravely agreed to do it with us right here, right now. And here to deliver the verdict, My DNA CEO, Leo Rauchberger, joins us. Leo, welcome to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Are you ready, Hinesy, to find out what the verdict is?
I'm actually a little bit nervous, to be honest. I've avoided the results at all costs, so I'm ready. Hit me with it.
Okay, let's start. We looked at some markers around your fitness and your nutrition. So let's start with the nutrition and the weight loss, shall we?
All right, let's get into it.
Okay, so, well, the good news is you can ring your parents and thank them because they've actually dealt you a pretty good deck of cards.
Yes, thank you, Mum
But
and Dad.
there are a few areas we need to watch. So in the FTO gene, which is all about our appetite and our sense of feeling full and the tendency to overeat, which is a problem with a lot of us, your result is not brilliant. It's not terrible. You're kind of somewhere in the middle.
Can I explain that actually resonates with me? A lot of people look at me and they go, he's fit, he's got it all together, it's fine. It's actually the opposite. I do struggle with cravings, and if I don't exercise and I don't eat well, I do put on body fat. This isn't a woe is me, it's just the reality.
Interesting. Well, your DNA profile supports that. So people with your profile, and I actually have a similar profile, there's 2 major issues that you have. One is that your brain doesn't get the right signal that you've had enough to eat. So you tend to have a second or a third serve of pasta when perhaps you didn't need it.
Yeah, I think I've got that. I've done no tests, but I'm pretty sure that I've got that too.
So, and then the second thing around cravings that you mentioned, Luke, which is interesting, is that when your brain, and this is actually scientifically proven, when it sees fatty or high sugary foods, you just can't stop yourself.
Mate, you are talking my language. And I have to say, could this explain why as a kid I struggled with my weight? My nickname was Buddha because everyone would rub my big belly for good luck. It's kind of funny now.
Is that a really common, like if you look at the population, is that one of the most common things that you see in the testing?
So there's 3 variants for this particular weight and obesity gene, and it's I think it's about 40% of the population has this variant, but we looked at actually 7 different genes in Luke. So we looked at a whole, and this is sort of a combination of them all put together. But that gene, it's interesting that you struggle with weight when you're younger because people that have that profile, they have 20 to 30% higher chance of, if they don't manage their portions, and of being overweight.
Now, Hinesy, it sounds like you're pretty across your profile, and obviously it's been reaffirmed by the DNA test. Are you going to change anything on the back of some of this today?
Yeah, look, it gives me reassurance to start off with that, how I'm thinking and feeling about food is correct due to my genes, but also it makes me really aware of what might work for me. So when it comes to food, I've got to be mindful of snacking and overeating. What about exercise and movement?
So, and the last on the snacking and overeating is obviously portion control, but the diet that you should be on, if you had to pick a diet, rather than guessing, because there's so many diets out there, it's a high protein diet.
High protein.
High protein diet will work best for Luke. And
where do the fats and carbs fit?
So you need to have a low fat, omega-3, and high protein diet.
Does that work for you?
I have to tell you that this is the opposite of what I'm doing. I'm high fat, low carb, very low carb, and moderate protein. So this is literally spinning my head on, spinning my hair on its head.
Good news is you can write another cookbook, and
there you go.
away you go.
Absolutely.
Can I ask you, Leo, how I feel like this is a really great thing to arm people who aren't necessarily very fit but have never had the right keys to make their training work for them. They're like, I'm exercising, I feel like I eat well, but I never lose weight. This is a really helpful thing for them.
Well, we hear that all the time. People are frustrated, and we did a bit of research. We surveyed 2,000 Chemist Warehouse customers, and about 80% of people have said they've tried this diet, they've tried that diet, and they just get despondent and frustrated, and they just can't keep the weight off. And because many of them are not eating the right types of foods and the right diet that's best suited for their body makeup.
So what's the take-home message for all of this?
So I think that the key is stop guessing. You know, we want to all live healthier, we want to be well, we want to move better and eat better. And there's so much guesswork and trial and error that goes on, and it doesn't need to be that way. With the latest science, with a simple DNA test, you can get simple insights about what's best for you and your body and the genes that you, for good or bad, inherited from your parents.
Thank you so much.
It's a fascinating field and a very simple test that Leo put Heinzie through. So if you want to check it out, it's a simple swab. Well done, Heinzie, for exposing yourself today in the name of education. And thanks to Leo Rauchberger. Good to catch up with you, Leo. As always, staying on foods that are best for your body, our man behind the health bar, Gerald Quigley, is looking at some natural medicines found in the ocean today. Gerald.
We are, Heinzie. We're talking particularly about essential fatty acids and focusing on krill.
And I actually saw krill in my fridge growing up. Mum used to take it a lot. But I know it's an essential fatty acid. What exactly does it do for our body, though?
We're talking here, Rach, about reducing inflammation. So inflammation's probably the root cause of most chronic disease. So anything we can do to reduce overall inflammation has got to be good for us long term. So the sort of thing that you can consistently use and take, bearing in mind that there's good fats and bad fats. So we're looking here at good fats, essentially.
How does it differ then from normal fish oil?
It's all about the packaging. So fish oil is in, well, that's what we call it. Fish oil is in a triglyceride package. Krill oil is in a phospholipid packaging, so it means it's more readily absorbed by the body. So the dose of the krill is actually much less than the dose of the fish because our body uses it much more efficiently.
Okay.
So that's essentially the difference.
And if I can't take krill oil as a supplement, how else can I get it?
Well, if you're allergic to crustaceans, you can't, well, you shouldn't probably take krill, but then you could swing off onto fish oil.
Gotcha. Okay, so can anyone take it?
Yes, it can, unless you've got that allergy suspicion, but that's where you check with your healthcare practitioner, ask the questions, make sure you're getting it right.
The A to Z of vitamins is brought to you by BioGlan Vitamins. Discover the BioGlan difference and improve your health today.
Winter just around the corner, Joe. I have to say, I'm not overly looking forward to it, particularly with the flu season.
Oh, me either, Das. Have you actually had the flu rather than just a bad cold?
I don't think so. I don't think I've ever fully had the flu.
Oh, it is the
males,
worst.
as a rule, are pretty tough at handling that sort of thing. So
Man flu.
I don't think it's been a big drama for me, Rach, to be honest.
Okay, well, I have had the proper flu once in my life and I thought I was going to die. It's a contagious viral infection that affects the nose and the breathing, the fever, and when you really have it, you know it. In Australia, it usually peaks from June to around September, which is not that far off. Das, look out.
Correct. That is why our man Gerald Quigley, behind the health bar and leading educator with Bioceuticals, Amy Skilton, are joining forces to give us the inside word on what we can do to prevent it. Guys, what can we do?
Lots, Das, and really important information that Amy's got. Welcome, Amy. Welcome to our little Garden of Eden here.
Thank you.
So what can we do to reinforce our immune system and make sure it's as efficient as possible across the colder weather which is coming?
So a healthy immune system requires optimal levels of several nutrients, but in particular vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc and vitamin A. They're really the key ones for an effective immune response.
How important is vitamin D?
Vitamin D is absolutely crucial because if we don't have enough, we can't actually produce our own antimicrobial peptides, which are important for fighting off infection. And unfortunately, in wintertime, 75% of Australians are deficient in vitamin D. And that is by the definition of less than 50 nanomoles per litre. And sadly, even if you're below 75 nanomoles per litre, you're actually twice as likely to get a respiratory tract infection than if you're above that. And if you're below 50, 3 times at risk. And so vitamin D levels are so important during winter.
So we've got supplements, and we've mentioned vitamin D,
Yes.
we've mentioned vitamin C. Does zinc play a role?
Zinc plays a huge role as well in both the innate and the adaptive immune system, which means your initial response as well as your memory banks for your immune system, as well as for your white blood cells to actually get around the body and do their job properly. So ideally, a good combination of all of those.
So we're training our immune system to be on guard and ready to go. So what about herbs? Now, echinacea, one of my favourites.
Yes,
But
same.
what other herbs, bearing in mind echinacea is the core one, what else might we find useful?
So echinacea is the most popular because it helps to speed up the immune system. It's a bit of a go-to, Western herbal medicine-wise. But olive leaf and andrographis are also two others that really help echinacea do a better job in the body.
So working together, working on the phrase synergistically,
Yes.
to give the most effective response.
Yeah.
And are these safe? Are they more a preventer or a treatment, or can you mix it as both?
Generally speaking, these herbs would be applied as a treatment only. I guess if you were to compare it to the use of antibiotics, you only want to use them when they're necessary. You don't want to be continually stimulating the immune system if you're not unwell. Having said that, if you're a medical professional who's being exposed to things all the time, it might be something you might take more regularly.
While we sometimes joke about man flu, and the like influenza is actually no laughing matter at all. Jo, you've had it before.
Yes, it's nasty.
Yes, it is nasty. New strains raise their ugly heads all the time, meaning new vaccinations need to be constantly developed to fight them. We visited a cutting-edge Australian company that manufactures the necessary weapons to wage war on the flu.
So we would manufacture about 20 to 30 million doses of flu vaccine per year, depending on the seasonal requirements. The World Health Organisation will conduct surveillance of which virus strains are circulating around the globe, and then they'll provide a recommendation for which viruses should be included in the vaccine. And here in Australia, the Australian Influenza Vaccine Committee will also confirm that that's the recommendation to be adopted. So we expect the vaccine formulation to change each season, and we will then make a version of that virus which is able to grow in eggs, which means we can manufacture a vaccine at large scale. So we receive eggs on site from farms which are scattered around Victoria, and we take 440,000 eggs per day, up to 6 days per week processing. We will inoculate those eggs with the virus because the virus needs a host, and that egg will provide the host for the virus to amplify. It grows for 2 days, and at that point we then harvest the virus in the egg white or the allantoic fluid. It's sometimes believed that the vaccine contains a live virus. That's not the case. Once we harvest the virus, we inactivate it, which leads it to be non-infectious for patients, which leads the vaccine safe for administration for people. And we do that for each of the 4 virus subtypes. Once we have a concentrate of each of those subtypes, we'll combine it to make a 4-strain vaccine, and we aseptically fill that into syringes. Throughout this whole process, we're testing the product, and then ultimately we supply those results to the TGA, who release our product. In the event of a pandemic, it's really important to have a very quick response, and so having the capability to manufacture the vaccine onshore here in Australia is important. It means we can get the vaccine out faster. It also means that if there's risks of borders closing, we don't have to worry about that here for the Australian public. We're very proud of our role in providing influenza vaccine here in Australia. We have a long history of doing that, and it's a very big part of our contribution to public health, really preventing illness and particularly preventing death.
Well, that was interesting to see it being made in our own backyard here in Melbourne. Now, do you guys get the flu vaccine every year?
I've never had it as an adult, no.
I haven't had it either.
I haven't either, which is dumb because I've had the flu and I know how awful it is.
Well, Gerard, what are the benefits of getting the flu vaccine every year?
Well, quite simply, Darcy, it's reducing the risk that you actually pick up the infection. Now, for those who are travelling, it's a logical thing to do. So the 3 of you, the 4 of you, man up, get the vaccine this year, get the quadrivalent vaccine. You can get it from your local pharmacist, Chemist Warehouse are running clinics, online, book in, go and have the injection. Simple. And Heinz, doesn't hurt.
I really don't like needles. I really don't like needles.
It is an important topic, Joe, that affects us all. Thanks, Gerard. We'll be back in a minute with another high-tech weapon in the war against flu right after this. Vanessa's a regular with us in the House of Wellness, and you found an app that is based on crowdsourcing information on the flu, Vanessa.
That's right. So there's a website that's put together by the government, and you can go to flutracking.net, and every week it will poll the population and see, are you experiencing some symptoms? Have you got a sore throat? Do you have a cough? Do you have a fever? And if you do, you can plug in the details. What it creates is a crowdsourced map of data, so you can see where people are experiencing symptoms, and indeed if they've been, diagnosed with the flu.
So how does that work exactly? I don't quite understand. It sounds amazing, but how does it work?
So every week you get an email on a Monday, and it says to you, have you got any of these symptoms? And you can tick yes or no. If you do tick yes to some of them, it will say, have you been to the doctor? Did they do any tests for the flu on you? And it will just drill down a bit. When you first go in, it'll also ask, were you vaccinated for the flu in the previous year? So it has enough information to go on. What's fantastic about it is it makes all the results transparent to you. So you'll get weekly reports, and then researchers can actually drill into these over time and really see what's happening. They're getting over 40,000 participants weekly, which is incredible. So it's a lot of data, and you can really get a sense of how things are moving through your community and feel like you're pitching in.
I love this because anecdotally we keep a track of what's going around, usually with your kids and your school community or your childcare or whatever. You know when there's a bug,
No, you know where to go and where not to go.
But with this, you know parts of your own city. Can you actually look into your website, into your postcode?
Yes, you add your postcode, and that's exactly what they use to track things. So you can just pop up the map, have a look at where the little red hot spots are and say, maybe we won't go out for dinner there today.
Yep, avoid it.
Another great app, Vanessa. Thanks for bringing that to the table. It feels like we're well protected heading into this flu season, Joe, with all the information that's out there. It's been a very informative show. That's it for another week. Go to our website, houseofwellness.com.au for more info on the show. It's also where you'll find all the details on how to enter the Sukhavati Barley competition. We are giving away 2 double passes for 2 people, that's 2 couples, to spend 7 nights at the Sukhavati Health Retreat in Bali. You'll enjoy a complete rejuvenation package, tailored treatments, Ayurvedic doctor consultation, yoga, meditation, spa treatments. It's a whole lifestyle change for you. And you'll fly courtesy of Jetstar Business, an incredible airline that take very good care of you in business class. So don't forget to tune into the House of Wellness radio show every Sunday. And as always, thanks to our good friends at Chemist Warehouse. See you next week.
Sharing time with friends.